Hey, yo, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is Smart TCG. Today, I'm going to be going over my top 8 finish at the most recent Louisville Regional Championships. I ended up playing Terapagos. It ended up getting 7th place at this tournament out of over 1,900 players. So today, I'm going to be going over my run. The 60 that I decided, reasons as to why I played certain cards and reasons as to why I chose not to. And then just, kind of my run, what matchups I played against, how you should be playing against those, and more. But with that being said, if you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And let's hop right into it. So Louisville Regionals most recently just happened this previous weekend, 1,938 players, and we saw Raging Bolt take the W there with Heavy Bravery Charm. That was definitely a big surprise to some people, as a lot of people, myself included, were kind of writing off the deck heading into this event. However, people did find a way to make the deck significantly stronger with that extra Bravery Charm or 2, as we saw some lists playing 3 and some lists even going up to 4. But I was able to take 7th place here with this Terapagos variant, Terapagos Dusknoir Pidgeot. This is the 60 that I decided on. So this was a deck that I was testing quite a bit heading into the tournament. I did put it on my Patreon as a deck that I was considering. So if you're interested in that, make sure to go check that out. And it was a deck I felt relatively comfortable with. I really enjoyed the engine. I think one thing when you're preparing for tournaments is trying to find a deck that you really enjoy, something that you can have fun with, because these are, pretty long and stressful, tournaments. So playing a deck that you feel comfortable and confident in is definitely very, very important. Me and someone I test with, Rowan Stavinow, were trying to figure out the list, trying to figure out exactly what cards like you wanted to play, and this is the 60 that we both ended up on. We got 3 Terapagos EX here. I did want to play 4, however, space was really tight, and I did opt for that Manaphy for the Regidrago matchup, and also can help out versus any deck that has access to using the Radiant Greninja. So I ended up going with 3 Terapagos. It kind of hurt at the very beginning of the tournament, but as the tournament went on, I didn't really run into any issues playing 3. 4/4 Noctowl as well. I think this is absolutely standard. This is the most powerful card in the deck, the card you want to be using almost every single turn. So I think 4/4 is standard. 3/2 of the Dusknoir line as well. Some people play 2/2. You really want to get those Duskulls down as quickly as possible, and having 3 is just good for consistency reasons. 2 Fan Rotom as well. Some lists play 3, but I decided to opt for 2. The only time I did prize both of my Fan Rotom was in game 3 of my top 8 match, which was very unfortunate, but that was the only time that I can remember that the 2 actually ended up hurting me. It is what it is, though, because throughout the rest of the tournament, having 2 was the perfect number. 1/1 Pidgeot as well. Some lists like to play 2/2 or potentially 1/2 or 2/1, but I just decided to opt with the 1/1. I wanted a thicker count because Pidgeot is one of the most important cards to get set up on the board, especially to be able to find those double colorless energies consistently. However, I ended up opting to add in the Colress's Tenacity, which really helped out being able to find those double turbo energies when you prize the Pidgeot. So the 1/1 Pidgeot line felt relatively okay. 1 Bloodmoon Ursaluna as well. This was a card that I wasn't necessarily sure how good it was until I actually played a bunch of games with this deck, and I realized just how powerful it was. A fantastic card to finish off games. Can attack for free as well. If you use something like a Dusknoir to force it onto 1 prize, you can attack with the Bloodmoon for free. 1 Fezandipiti as well, just a staple in this deck. You want to be consistent. Fezandipiti makes a lot of sense. Very good card. Manaphy as well. This is a card I wasn't 100% sold on. However, if you do play against Regidrago, it is really, really important to have this so they can't use something like the Kyurem as consistently to be able to blow up your board. So very important to have Manaphy in here right now, in my opinion, but it could potentially be cut if you want to get a little bit greedy and potentially play something like maybe a 4th Terapagos, maybe the Bouffalance as well. You could potentially do that. But overall, the Pokemon felt perfect. Every card had a purpose, and there really wasn't a Pokemon that I felt like I wasn't using a whole lot of the time. 2 Research, 2 Iono as well, just for consistency. Great cards to use at the very beginning of the game. Research as well, oftentimes on like that second turn, is also pretty good, that you can find those big combos because you're not planning to use Briar on turn 2. So having a draw support on that turn is very, very nice. 1 Boss's Orders as well felt totally fine. 1 Briar and 1 Colress's Tenacity. Colress over Energy Lotto, I think, is correct. I know some people do like to play the Energy Lotto, but in so many of my games, having access to the Colress's Tenacity, which is absolutely game saving, being able to find a Stadium and also a double turbo energy is really important, because remember, this is a heavy combo based deck. You're trying to get those crazy turn 2 combinations, and having Colress's Tenacity is, in my opinion, a card that helps you, reach those goals. And the problem with Energy Lotto is if you spend, let's say, a Noctowl or, something like a Pidgeot, to use it, you typically won't be using Pidgeot, though, because you could just, search out a double turbo. But if you're using some type of search, for the Energy Lotto and you miss, you pretty much just wasted that search, and that feels absolutely horrible. So that's the reason why is that yes, it is an item card. You can use it paired up with maybe like a research or some other draw supporter, or just supporter on the same turn. However, it's not a guarantee, and that's why I like Colress. I think Colress is a little bit of a safer card. 4 Nest Ball, 4 Buddy-Buddy Poffin, 4 Rare Candy, and 3 Ultra Ball. I wasn't 100% certain on whether or not I wanted 4 Ultra Ball, 3 Buddy-Buddy Poffin, or 4 Buddy-Buddy Poffin and 3 Ultra Ball. I wasn't 100% sure because you oftentimes need Terapagos on the second turn of the game, to be able to do anything. Well, you actually do always need it. And that was something that I wasn't 100% sure about because I wanted more outs to Terapagos, but 4 Buddy Poffin is just so powerful, especially when you're trying to refill your bench when they bump your area 0 on the next turn, that I decided to trust the 4 Buddy-Buddy Poffin. And it kind of hurt in the first round. There were maybe a couple rounds where I was like, dang, I wish I had a 4th Ultra Ball, but it really didn't hurt enough of the time. And there were some games that I was saved by having, a Buddy-Buddy Poffin. So I think it's kind of preference. I think you could play 4 Ultra Ball if you want to be able to get that Terapagos out a little bit, more consistently on, that first or second turn of the game. However, after those turns, I think that Buddy-Buddy Poffin is stronger overall. 3 Night Stretcher as well, just being able to get those Pokemon back, really, really important. Definitely enjoyed that count. 1 Prime Catcher, 1 Counter Catcher. I admittedly kind of wanted a second Counter Catcher in some situations, but I think 1 ended up being just okay, and I really don't think there's a whole lot of space. I really think Manaphy is like that only flex spot in the deck. 1 Switch as well, 1 Feather Ball, 1 Vitality Band. Vitality Band is absolutely phenomenal for the mirror match as you are able to one-shot Terapagos. Is also very good if you play against a deck that tries to aggressively Iron Hands you, maybe something like Lost Zone Toolbox, for example. Possibly Lugia as well might, try and run an Iron Hands through you, so having a Vitality Band is really good at responding. And also just sometimes, randomly comes up where, that 10 extra damage ends up mattering. 3 Area 0 Underdepths as well. No need for 4 as you're trying to win your games in, typically 3 to 4 turns as quickly as possible. So never need a 4th there. And then 4 double turbo energies to round out the list. Overall, this list felt absolutely incredible for anyone going to upcoming tournaments. This would be the 60 that I would recommend running. If you want to make any changes, I would potentially look into, maybe cutting that Manaphy, kind of based off what you're expecting. But it is nice, though, just as another Pokemon. Anyways, let's hop into my tournament run here, getting 7th place. I started off playing against Jake round 1. Jake was playing Lugia V-Star. I ended up just completely bricking in games 1 and 3. Didn't necessarily set up in game 2. I was able to pretty convincingly win, and I started off 0-1. So this was where I was not 100% sure exactly how this tournament was going to go. Starting 0-1 at a regional, especially when your goal is to go as far as you possibly can be pretty sketchy to deal with. So not a good start, but I was able to rally back. I played against Corey, ended up playing a Raging Bolt, was able to win that. I played against Tony, playing a kind of like Turbo Friggorath Cornerstone deck, which I thought was pretty cool. Was able to win that as well. I played against Donnie, who was playing Palkia Dusknoir. Definitely a very, very close matchup. Typically what you want to do is you really want to try and aggressively get rid of their own Duskulls, getting rid of their Palkia as well. If they only get 1 Palkia down, really try and chase that and get it off the field. Also, Froakie is really, really threatening. Froakie very powerful, as if it becomes a Greninja, it can deal 340 damage to your Terapagos because it's weak. So that's really important, is to try and get that off the field if you can as well. So starting off 3-1, feeling relatively good. Ended up going up against Jordan. I believe Jordan was playing Raging Bolt from what I remember, and this is a relatively decent matchup. I ended up being Caleb Gettimer's only loss as well from the tournament. So throughout the tournament, I saw definitely plenty of success for his Raging Bolt. But typically how you want to play this matchup is oftentimes they're going to have a Raging Bolt in the active, which means you really want to kind of try and work around that Bolt, chasing things like Fezandipiti, Squawkabilly, Teal Mask, Ogerpon as well, taking those 2 prizers and keeping up the prize race that way. Don't want to bench a Terapagos early game as well. Try and avoid that until they take the first knockout, or you have the option to take the first knockout. You don't need to put 1 down on turn 1. So I was able to win that game. Next up, played against Aaron West, and Aaron ended up playing Reggie Drago. Game 1, I was both of our hands were actually not very good. However, they were going second, and they started Cleffa, and they just used Cleffa's attack to draw, and I was able to donk them with a Noctowl with a double turbo, which was definitely not expected. And then game 2, I was able to work around the Reggie Drago, chase down their teal mask, get that off the board, and try and, win the prize race that way. And was able to blow up their Regidrago V-Star as well with a Dusknoir plus Smack. Very, very close game, though, and I was able to win that there. Next up, I played against Evan. Evan was playing, this was my winning in as with this many players. You only needed to go 6-2 to make it, as there was not over 2,048, I think is the threshold for 9 rounds. So ended up playing against Evan, playing Raging Bolts. Was very, very close. Game 1 was pretty convincing, but Game 2 was going very long and was also like very uncertain on whether or not I would win or not. But a really powerful attacker towards the end of the game is that Bloodmoon Ursaluna. Bloodmoon Ursaluna, one of the most powerful cards in this deck, especially against Raging Bolt, as Terapagos can only hit 220, 230 with Vitality Band, which is still just barely short in knocking out the Raging Bolt. However, Bloodmoon Ursaluna, towards the very end of the game, if you're able to force your opponent down to 1 prize card, attacks for free for 240, which is really, really good. So I was kind of able to work around some of those Raging Bolts that were in the active, focus on the teal masks, the Squawkabillies of the world, get those off the board, then clean up the game with a Ursaluna KO. Another big play you can also make in some situations to take 4 prize cards is use Dusknoir to put 130 damage onto Radiant Greninja, knocking that out, and then using Briar, and then using something like Counter Catcher or Prime Catcher, bring up that low HP 2 prizer and then take that out for an extra prize. So you'll be able to take 3 prizes on the 2 prizer and then 1 prize with the Dusknoir, which equals 4 due to Briar. So I ended up guaranteeing myself into day 2. That was 6 wins in a row. And next up, I played against Aban, who was playing the Turbo Gardevoir deck, very similar, I think exact 60 that Henry Chow also used and placed top 64. This matchup is relatively decent. You kind of just pop multiple Dusknoirs if you can. Go as quickly as you can, try and blow up their draw engine, and I was able to pretty swiftly 2-0 them in about 25 to 30 minutes. So felt pretty good there. 7-1, won 7 in a row, was definitely on a heater here. And day 2 was more of the same, where I ended up playing against Brant, who ended up playing the mirror match. Very, very close, was able to barely win that. Very sketchy matchup, as it feels like there are going to be a lot of variants, just, who's able to, draw better, who's able to find the combo cards more. It felt like I was able to do that, and I was able to get the W. Next up, I played against Jeremiah Schmutz, here playing Lugia. Very friendly person, also runs a YouTube channel called Seagrove. They don't upload as much as they used to, but very, very cool guy. And I was able to take the W there. Played against Lugia. Game 1 was very convincing. I was able to set up really well. Just kind of blew them out of the water. I believe they missed off an Iono, a Lugia V-Star, so they were just going to fall way too far behind in Game 1. So they, understandably scooped. And then in Game 2, they were in an interesting situation where they, I believe, turn 2 Aqua returned, which I'm not sure if that ended up being correct, because it allowed me, because 1, they didn't take a prize card, I believe, and 2, it allowed me to chase after an Archeops, and then the next turn they Primal Turboed to a Lugia, and I believe they took a knockout, and then I just chased after the other Archeops, and they were pretty much stuck with, a Lugia V-Star and, potentially using something like the Bloodmoon Ursaluna. So it was very, very close at the end. Came down to if they ended up having boss's orders, as despite being able to get rid of both of their Archeopses, when I spent those turns chasing Archeopses, I wasn't dealing with that Lugia. So that Lugia become very, very scary, and also with access to Bloodmoon Ursaluna as well towards the end of the game, it can definitely get very sketchy. But was able to take that W there. Very close matchup. I think Terapagos is slightly favored if they win the coin flip. It really just feels like a coin flip matchup in a lot of ways, though. So that is 9 in a row now, feeling pretty good. Just got to win 1 of my next 2 to at least, hopefully guarantee me into asymmetrical. But with how the tournament ended up, you actually had to go 10-1-1 to even make it in the top cut. So ended up going up against Caleb Gittimer, the 3-time, now 4-time, I believe, regional champion. Incredibly, strong player, one of the best players to ever play. Got a ton of respect for them. And yeah, they were playing Raging Bolt, and incredibly close Game 2. Game 1, I kind of just ran them over, was able to set up very well. However, in Game 2, it was much closer. I missed a huge turn, I believe, on getting what I needed, or just something happened where I wasn't able to find exactly like what I needed. Like, I feel like my board just kind of stumbled, which made the game really, really close. However, was able to finish off the game. Bloodmoon Ursaluna, incredibly powerful, able to carry typically at the end. So I'm 10-1, should be okay for top 8 as long as I ID, which I was able to ID against Benjamin, who was also 10-1, putting us both up to 10-1-1 and into top 8. Top 8 ended up going against Kyle Lesnowick. I apologize if I messed up that last name, but ended up going against Kyle, very friendly person from my experience, and they were playing Pokemon Dusknoir, and I played against one earlier in the tournament, and this match was incredibly close. In game 1, I did win the coin flip, did opt to go first. You really need to go first in this matchup, and I started Duskull and also a Hoothoot, and I drew pass. Had absolutely nothing. And they actually had one, I believe, Palkia in the active, and they had a couple Nest Balls, but they assumed I was going to brick. So they did not get a second Palkia. They kind of set up their board, and they passed. Which, to be honest, if I went just draw pass with one Duskull and also one Hoothoot, I'd feel pretty good about my chances of that Palkia surviving. However, I believe they Iono'd me, or I think I Iono'd myself. I think I top-decked Iono, and I drew into like the most crazy hand ever. I drew into like Nest Ball, DTE, Buddy Poffin, Noctowl, or just some absurd combination of cards. And I was able to take the knockout on the Palkia. And instantly, like, I was like, okay, I'm back in the game. This was some crazy turn. Like one of probably the craziest turn I've ever played, where I was not expecting to do anything. And then boom, right out of nowhere at 220. However, they were able to get into their Greninja and were kind of just able to run me over with that. I wasn't able to deal with it, unfortunately. That next turn, I missed a double turbo energy to be able to attack. I think the problem was I hadn't burned through my deck a ton, and I just did not find like what I needed. I think I might have prized Pidgey in that game, and it allowed me to not be able to find the double turbo energy. I think if I maybe found it, I could have potentially done something, but you know, it is what it is. Game 2, I was able to kind of just run them over. They didn't set up very well. Their board state was very poor, and I was able to win. Game 3 is probably one of the most emotionally taxing and close games I have ever played. Their turn 1 wasn't necessarily great, but I had a really strong turn 1 going second. That's the big problem, though. I was already kind of unfavored because I was going second against a deck, you know, that is trying to, you know, blow up my board as quickly as possible with things like Dusknoir and Radiant Greninja. So I did end up going second as they opted for first, and I had a really good hand. I think I had Nest Ball, Buddy Poffin, something pretty strong. And I played the Buddy Poffin, and I realized that all my Fan Rotoms are not there. And that's when my heart kind of sank, because I needed them to be able to not necessarily get the Hootoots, but get Noctowls into my hand. I also found out that my Pidgey was prized. This ends up being very important later on, as this game is incredibly close. So I kind of fumble around, and I get a little bit of a board state setup, and I pass. Their setup is not exceptional. It's fine. They get kind of what they need, and they just smack me with a Palkia, to where I'm able to respond with, I believe, a Dusknoir KO, as I was able to establish and take a couple prize cards. They then respond, take some more prize cards, and I'm in a situation where I have to win the game on this turn. So I was able to, I believe, on the first knockout, get a Pidgey. Or something happened to where I was able to get Pidgey down. I think I might have prized Pidgeot. Something happened, though, to where I wasn't able to get Pidgeot out on the second turn of the game. And I was in a situation where I was very close, actually, to taking 4 prizes in one turn. As I was able to pop Dusknoir, I was able to Rare Candy into Pidgeot, search out the double turbo energy, and I also had access to things like Fezandipiti, a Buddy Poffin, I believe also a Noctowl as well. I started the turn with Fezandipiti, drew a few cards, got Rare Candy Dusknoir, got the Rare Candy Pidgeot, and I was able to get to the point where I could Briar, and I thought I had game. However, apparently, I was 1 card short. I needed 1 more bench Pokemon to be able to complete the counter catcher KO on the Squawkabilly, and my heart sank. And I was really close. I just needed 1 more card. I think I did everything I could on that last turn to put myself in the situation. I popped the Dusknoir. I knew I had a couple Pokemon as well in there, and you know, I got very close. But unfortunately, I was not able to get all the pieces that I wanted to, and I was 1 card short, and they were able to knock me out for game. So I got very close in the game, but top 8 is still pretty good. It's a fun set. Definitely had a lot of fun, and congrats to Kyle on their top 4. But anyways, that's going to do it for the video today. I might make some type of like masterclass, or, you know, how to play versus every single matchup on the YouTube channel for this deck. So if you're interested in that, make sure to leave it in the comments. Let me know if you'd like to see some video like that. But anyways, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for everyone who came up to me as well at Louisville. I appreciate all the support. And with that being said, this is Smart TCG, and I'll speak with you guys again soon. Peace out.